My name is Sally Mewies. I'm a partner and head of technology and digital at Walker Morris, and I'm delighted to be joined by Stuart Wallace from Forth Ports, and we're going to revisit the session we did last year on keeping trade moving. Good morning, Stuart.
Morning, Sally.
So for the first question, what do you perceive to be the biggest risk currently to business growth and why?
Unfortunately, Sally, I think it has to be the events of the last 6 months and the overall impact of the COVID pandemic. It's clear that the economy is suffering on the back of the restrictions, etc., that we've had, and the controls and movement of people and activity levels that have had to be brought in by the government to control the spread of the virus. As us in Forth Ports, like many other businesses, there's been an impact on that during the year. And for most of our customers that we spoke to or speak to now, there's definitely a longer term impact, with people expressing a view that it's certainly going to take us towards the end of 2022 or into 2023 before we start to see activity levels back to what they were pre-COVID-19.
Yeah, and I think you sort of answered my second question, really, Stuart, that, you know, that there's been such a huge change over the last 12 months. How do you see the risks to growth having changed in that period?
I think those risks factors, if you look at when we spoke last year, Sally, we were talking openly about Brexit and the risk of whether we had a trade agreement or not. I think those risks are still there, and none of us at this point in time know what the outcome of the trade agreement will be, whether we'll actually have one or not. So those risks, I think, still stay in place. I think some of the risks that have changed, though, relate to where the general position of the economy sits. I think we have to be looking at sort of skills inside the workplace. How do we get back to some of the elements of the way that we worked before, but also at the same time recognise some of the benefits that have come out of COVID-19 and the way that we've changed the way that we work, so the use of technology, etc. I see also as an opportunity as well as a risk. But there's also the risk, I think, of as we start to get back into some of the kind of the kind of wider working environment, or starting to look at some of the areas around technology or innovation or research and development. I think there's undoubtedly some of those aspects of the economy have been impacted as a result of COVID, and therefore those risks will be there with us for a few months or years to come as we're trying to pick that pace back up again.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been focused, haven't we, on Brexit or COVID in the last 12 months. So do you think that we're missing some risks or obstacles to business growth as a result, really, of being focused on Brexit and COVID?
I think that's quite a difficult one to kind of answer. I mean, from my personal perspective, Sally, I certainly see, if you look at what traditionally would have been activities around certain government departments, or even some of the activities that are there inside universities, etc., all of those things were put on hold for a period of time. So in our business, we know initiatives like the Freeport policy statement, the consultation was delayed. The policy was document that we expected to come out in the budget, and we've had the Chancellor yesterday announce that he's delaying or cancelling the budget. So we now again don't know what will happen to the Freeport's policy. So I think undoubtedly there are things that have kind of gone off the boil, where there's been less attention has been focused on some of the key initiatives that the government was looking to do around economic stimulus or streamlining processes and procedures, looking at things like planning. All of those kind of things have certainly slowed down, if not stopped, over the past 6 months.
Yeah, I suppose I've got to ask you this, but it's a really difficult question, isn't it? Do you think that businesses should be adopting more international growth strategies, or focusing on UK markets?
I absolutely think that the companies need to continue to focus on that external market, the international one. I'll come back to the debate about the UK and the impact of COVID as well, but there's no doubt as an island nation that aspiration should be there to use a lot of the skills, a lot of the expertise and knowledge, and a lot of the innovation that we've got in the UK as a key driver for that, continuing to push export activity and export volumes out of the UK, and to be that large-scale world player that we've got that aspiration to be kind of going forward. To counter that though, Sally, there's a lot of discussion at the moment about what the impact of COVID has been, and there's no doubt that the pace of globalisation has slowed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's from simple aspects of not being able to do travel, so not being able to go and look at new emerging markets or visit potential new customers, right the way down to fundamental questions that have been asked about supply chains. So how do you get security of supply of food? How do you get security of supply of pharmaceuticals, chemicals, etc.? I think there's been an impact on there will be an impact on the reliance of large volumes of goods coming from the Far East. So I think we'll see an element more nearshoring or onshoring activity happen. And that's been absolutely highlighted in supply chains through the COVID-19 pandemic. So I would say to businesses, don't stop looking at those international markets, but I think also recognise what those opportunities are in the UK or in Europe. And I know we'll be out of the EU by the end of the year, but that still is a huge near marketplace that we should be focusing on. So for me, I think there's different opportunities coming through now, but absolutely don't stop looking at that internationalisation element of your business.
Yeah, and finally, Stuart, one piece of advice that you would give to businesses about keeping trade moving?
It's quite an easy one for me to answer that one, Sally, given that I'm in the port sector and we are facing the 31st of December deadline. So I would say that that's about get close to your supply chain partners, understand what needs to be done around your documentation, your paperwork, your procedures to make sure that your goods can keep on moving. Get yourself up to speed with the current guidance from the government and really question and think about how your supply chains actually are undertaken. Do you have to rely on the way that it's always been done? Should you be looking at, for example, changing to unaccompanied freight using lift-on, lift-off methodology rather than the traditional driver-accompanied ro-ro all going through, for example, the Dover Straits? We have ample port capacity in the UK here to accommodate all the trade that needs to go in and out, but some of that will have to change. So to keep things moving, really question your partners, your in-house logistics teams, are they on top of what is changing, and make those changes early if you have to.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stuart.
No problem, Sally. Good to catch up.